All right, so we're going to cover now how to kind of investigate text files. So we've got a few different files we created. So let's say we want to look at this lesson 2. So a really useful command is less. So you can type less space and then lesson2.md. And another thing that you might see me doing is I'm hitting the tab button. So if I type the first couple letters of that file and then hit tab, it's going to auto complete as far as it can. Now it's not sure if I want lesson 1 or lesson 2, so I'm going to fill out the rest too, and then I hit tab again and it's going to fill out the rest. So this is really handy. This saves you time typing. It saves you from making mistakes. It also gives you suggestions if you're not exactly sure what that file was called, but you know the first 3 letters are LES. It can figure out the rest for you. So this is really handy. Tab complete. You can use this in the shell. You can use this in Python. In the Python interpreter, you can use this in the Python Jupyter notebooks that we're going to be using. And I will keep reminding you to do this. So it's okay. We can type lesson 2. We're going to hit enter. And now it's going to bring up a whole new window within our shell. It's this less program that allows us to scroll. We can just use our arrows to scroll up and down and look at this file. There's a number of keyboard shortcuts that we have. If you scroll down, you want to go back to the top, you can hit the G button. Or if you want to search for a word, you can hit the, I guess it's the backslash, is that one. You can hit the backslash and then type, say I want PWD, and then hit enter, and it'll bring you to PWD, and then if you hit N, it'll bring you to each next version. You can hit G to go back to the beginning, and let's say I want to search for MV. So that's less. There's a lot you can do with that. I encourage you to play around with it. When you want to get out of that, hit the Q button, the Q key. By the way, those man pages that I showed you and that we're going to show you again, that uses less also. Okay, the next one is head. So you're going to type head, say lesson 2, and this is going to print the first 10 lines of a file. So if you just want to see the first bit, but you want to leave it printed on your screen, you can type head lesson 2. Question?
What does less stand for? Is that short for something?
So yes, why is it called less? So there's another Unix command called more that's older. More, it works the same way, but it doesn't allow you to scroll backward. We can try it. You can go more lesson 2. And you can go arrow down, but it's just less functional. What was that? Okay. In fact, it used to be that I didn't think you could scroll backwards, but the idea is the idea is that less is a more fully featured version of more, and it's kind of a play on words. Less is more.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah, maybe that's what you're thinking of. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. But I prefer less, although I didn't realize, I thought more wasn't as able to do what I just did, so could be wrong.
How do you get out of less?
Hit the Q button. Yeah. Hit the Q button to get out. Okay, so then we did head. There's a related command. So okay, another thing about head is, so we can do head foo. So this has 3 lines, but if we just wanted the first line, we could do head -n1. So that's passing an argument to head, and now we're just seeing the first line of foo. You can do n can be any number. It can be 1,000. It can be 1, or anything in between. So that's really handy if you only want a certain number of lines, or you just want to shorten it. The same thing is with tail. So we can do tail lesson 2, say, and now we're getting the last 10 lines of lesson 2. And it works the same way. If we want tail dash n3 lesson 2, we'll just get the last 3 lines of lesson 2. Okay, there's a command called WC, or word count. That's really handy. So you can type WC foo, and this will give us the number of lines, words, and characters in that file foo. So if we did, in fact, I'll show you another thing, which is a wildcard. You can type WC foo star. That will give us a word count of all the files that begin with the letter F. So that's foo and foobar. And so foo has 3 lines, foobar has 1 line. Foo has 13 words, foobar has 5, and foo has 52 characters, and foobar has 35. And those characters counts include the new line character, which is the return at the end of the line. All right. And if you just want the number of lines, for example, that's often handy. You can do WC-L, and it'll give you just the number of lines. There's a command called open, which can be useful on a Mac at least. I'm not sure about other operating systems. You can type open foo, and mine is set to, since that's a text file that opens up Sublime Text, just like Atom. That can be handy. If it's a Word doc with the extension, docx, for example, it'll open Microsoft Word, etc. So that can be pretty handy. Another handy command is one called file. So if you type file foo, it will try to determine what kind of file that is. If I do file lesson, say 1, it'll say it's ASCII text with very long lines. But this is really handy if someone gives you a file you're not quite sure, like maybe it's a zip archive or something like that, or tar or something else. You're not quite sure what kind of file it is. You can type file and it will tell you. Another handy one is grep. So grep is a way to search for regular expressions, which are sort of combinations of characters. We'll cover regular expressions in an entire lesson later on in the course, but for right now, let's say I want to grep the word is in the file foo. So my grep, and I can show you how to do this in a minute, is recoloring. So it's not just showing me the lines that match that regular expression, but it is coloring those matches yellow. So here we've got these 2 lines. So remember that file foo has 3 lines, and in my version I have the word is printed twice. So it's showing me those 2 lines and then coloring them that way. There's a lot you can do with grep that we can cover more in the regular expressions lesson. Okay, so then we also have these various ways of working with commands and processes. We already saw the man command, so we can do man grep, and it will tell us all kind of stuff about grep, and we can scroll up and down. And again, this is like a less page, so we can search with this \grep, and then when we're ready to quit, we just hit the Q button, just like less. You can also type help. This only works with some commands. What did I do? I didn't help ls. Yeah, there's only certain commands that have help commands. Let's see if I can even find one. Help. So it's not very helpful. But a question?
Yeah, I tried out the man command. It's not
Yeah.
working on, Windows.
Are you other people having that on the Git bash? You're not the man doesn't work. Okay.
It's the command and then help, so it's two dashes help. So you put ln for.
Oh yeah. So that's a different thing, but yeah, that also works. So I can do. Are you talking about for man for the okay? So another option is this. So this is a analogous thing. This doesn't give you the full man page. I'm not sure. So the question was on Git bash on Windows systems that the man page, the man command doesn't work. So I'm not sure if there's a way to get those man pages. There must be, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. But for help, if that help command doesn't work, or if you just don't have access to the man page on Windows, you can type the command and then space and then dash help, and it will give you some basic information. And if anyone found an example where the help space command actually works, let me know. I can show you that, but it's not. The ones I'm trying now aren't seem to be working, so not super useful. But yeah, maybe I can add that. In fact, I will add that. So this is okay, and I'll update these on the GitHub page. Okay, question?
You can use help with it.
Yeah, that's what I needed. Help. But yeah, there aren't a lot that seem to work, so that's fine. And a couple more here. So there's history. So I'm going to type history, and I'm going to combine that with tail. So if I just typed history by itself, since I can do it, but I'm going to have 30,000 commands that just printed out here. So that's a lot. But you can also do history, and then this is called a pipe. So we'll pipe the output to a second command. So we can pipe the output of history to tail, and I'll just see the last 10 commands that I typed. So that's pretty handy. You can also, there's this command called top, which shows you all these processes that are running. That's pretty useful. You can get out of that with Q. And then finally, when you're done, you can type exit, and that will exit out of your terminal. It might even close the window. In mine, it leaves it open, but it's now closed. So in the assignment that's coming out today, you can still, in this case, if you hit exit, you can still copy the output of your commands. Okay, so there's now. Are there any questions on that? So now we have just some information here about text editors. You guys already have a text editor, so that's good. There's some information here about this program I like called Macdown, which is a markdown program for Mac. So if you use a Mac, I recommend that one. I think it's really handy to take notes and things and keep track of your markdown files. Then there's a number of command line editors. So this is useful if you want to edit text files in the shell instead of using a text editor. So you can use Nano or Emacs or Vim. If you want to try those, I encourage it, but there's no need to. You can always just open up Atom or Sublime Text and edit text files that way. These come in handy if you're working on a cluster where you don't have a graphical user interface, where everything has to be done in the shell. So if I were to open up, I'm going to open up another terminal here because I just exited out of that one. If I go to SIO 209 /lessons, I can do like nano foobar, and now this is that file, and now I can add text in nano. And now at the bottom here are all the commands, so we can see that we want to exit, we can hit Control X, and it will ask us, do we want to save this modified buffer? Buffer is what they call the text. I can say yes, hit Y, hit enter, and it will save the file. So if you want to see that again, I can hit Control X, save, and now what I hit enter very, quite quickly before, but basically it said what's the file name you want to write. So I'm just going to leave that as it is, hit enter, and now if I cat foobar, you can see I added some text using nano. So similarly, there are text editors, Emacs or Vim, that people seem to like, and you can.
Do you have to download these, or they're already?
Nano is almost always included. I think Vim is also. Emacs maybe. You might need to download them. And finally, so I have some appendix about the Nano text editor. So I think this one's nice because it's really simple. So there's some information about that if you want to learn. I also have some stuff here about setting up your Bash environment. So, so if we go to our home directory, type cd and type ls-a, you're going to see a bunch of stuff. Maybe not as much as me, but see if you have a file called bash profile. If not, we can create one, and if so, we can add to it. Now this is optional. If you want to, have a nice prompt like I do, where it shows the working directory and it's in color, nice yellow color. This will help you do that. If you want to add some aliases, such as ls-a will now be ls-la or ls- there's a few other sort of modifications that these bring. So this is optional. Yes. Yeah. So I'm a little bit. I think I'm going to let you decide whether you want to incorporate any of these into your workflow. I'd say they're all optional, but they can be handy. So I don't. If you are inclined, what you can do is you can copy portions of this or all of this file to your .bash _profile, and then that will change your Unix environment on your computer. So if I look at my .bash profile, I've got a lot of stuff here. I've got changes to my path. This is kind of more advanced. I think what I'll do is I'll leave this here. You're welcome to try it, and then next time, if we have some time, we can play around with this also. A couple reasons for that. One is you don't necessarily want to change everything on your session. I'm not sure if some of these commands might not work on git bash or on the Linux terminal. I know they'll work on the Mac, but you can read here kind of what each of these does. If you want to change your prompt, you can add this part to your .bash profile, changing how your window title displays. This autocomplete history is really handy. If you want to color grep like mine did, you can add this. I've got some aliases that I like to use. I've got some history settings, and I've got some history kind of saving capability. So these are things that I've added to my bash profile over many years of using this and deciding this is how I like to do things. So I'm happy to share this with you, but we don't need to make those changes today. But again, you're welcome to and maybe you can, if you do make some changes, save a copy of your .bash profile to another file so that you can change it back if you don't like it. Any questions?
Is bash history the same? Or
So .bash history, I believe, is the actual history. Okay. Yeah, this is the actual history of commands.
okay.
So these dot files they have different purposes. Used to be on a Mac, this was called .profile. Now it's called .bash profile, which is, I believe, the same on Linux. And this is a way you can customize things. So you can see, like, I've got some coloring here and some different things that happen based on how I have things set up.
Are all those coloring settings in your the bash profile you put on the
I believe most of those colorings are. I'm not actually sure about the green and the magenta, because this is the prompt here. Yeah, I think it might be in the ls settings. I think it might be this. It might be this -p. I don't think about it very often. Okay, no, there is a -p with write a slash after each name. It might be in another. It might be in another file. Uh-huh.
You just have